Inter Landmark Group, and Fidelity Investments. We have Mr. Ajay Sharma, last but not the least, an experienced professional in brand communication and strategy, brand communications, integrated marketing communication, and content creation. He has held senior positions at the McCain World Group, Lowell Lintas, Fountainhead Communications, and Citigroup. He was the national head for the brand activation and communication with the McCain World Group in his last assignment. He is the moderator for today's session. I'm Shonal Raj and founder of the Demystified initiative, and I'm very glad to start for today's session. So I will begin. Before we start this session, I would like to explain to you and give an introduction about how the format of the session is going to be. We have three sections. In the first section, I will ask each panelist two questions. In the second section, the panelists will be answering the most important dialogue and conversation question that needs to be related to, and that relates to our vision and mission. And finally, we will take some questions from our participants. My request to all participants, please type your questions in the Q&A and they will all be answered. In between, we will also conduct a poll and do vote us and let us know your opinion. So let us start the session. So my first question is to Mr. Nirbhay Lumde, sir. Every corporate, big or small, has reached out to the community in dire situations such as the pandemic. And I'm sure that CGI has had contributed a lot. How did your organization extend the support to communities hit by the COVID-19? If you could explain and enlighten us.
Thank you, Shonal. Good afternoon to everyone. I think it's such a nice, vibrant panel to be here. Thanks for inviting me over here. I think the pandemic really opened up floodgates in terms of how do we respond in a situation where we are not familiar. That's number one. Number two, also a situation where not just one segment of the population which got impacted, but across the segment that we got impacted. The third most important was something which was very, very new. None of us knew how to wade through it. So therefore, from that angle, I think the first priority was to save and safeguard lives was priority. Given that we had the immediate lockdown, the first priority for us to save lives. So therefore, we ventured out. The first thing was to reach out to the people, the most vulnerable with the ration, the dry ration, which was very, very important for us to at least to take care of their 2 to 4 weeks, their basic requirements was the first priority. While that was getting evolved, we quickly worked with various governments because end of the day, though we are private players, we may be believing that we have all wherewithal. It's a strong belief, which I always believe that governments have the all wherewithal to make the difference. And therefore, so we quickly worked with various governments and finding out what their immediate requirements were. As someone made, after 18 months, maybe looking at and laughing at us saying that we were actually struggling with the basic PPE and the mask requirement itself in the beginning. So therefore, we worked very closely with the state governments and figured out what were their requirements. And therefore, the priority was to safeguard the frontline workers. So who are these? These are the medical health workers was the priority. The second was the police. The third, very, very, very important for us also was sanitation workers, the municipal corporation where we have offices. So therefore, we prioritized and reach out to them the basic requirements to take care of themselves to begin with. Thereafter, it was very important, not just about being the immediate, the intermediate, it's also important for us to look at opportunities. How do we strengthen the existing infrastructure in hospitals? These are basically the referral centers. So went ahead and supported a couple of hospitals in Telangana where we have an office, and also we have offices in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. We went ahead and strengthened the hospitals with the requirement they needed immediate to treat patients. I'm really happy to share that even today we have a couple of hospitals which are already doing the service, continue to do so. These are the requirements like having an ICU beds to X-ray, portable X-ray machines to the all kind of support that's there. And I'm happy to report that we have a hospital which is already treated as many 8,000 patients so far. Really happy to share that. And of course, this was more of the strong, maybe a long-term support. But of course, it was over a year later, we still continue to support such initiatives. So where did we move from there on, from hospitals? So right now, we also supported having the COVID care centers in the urban cities that we have. In fact, we had our own CGI members contributing to more than 1 crore support that has been given by members. We call it our employees. We also had our corporate coming back and giving $100K US as a matching grant. So with that, we went ahead and supported the COVID care centers. We also have the oxygen generation plants that have been set up in hospitals. We also have set up the PICU, the pediatric ICU set up in the government hospitals. So it's more like, if I summarize, it was more immediate, intermediate, long-term, maybe futuristic was more what we have done in the recent past. That's how we have looked at it. I think this is a journey that we are going to continue. Maybe next 3 to 4 months are very, very critical. We never knew where are we headed, but that's where I would see it more from a support point of view. And just a caveat here, we were not experts in the health area, but yes, we have the support system, that is be it the government or be it the health workers, our own team management that really was up and supporting us. Every help that was required was extended to us. So therefore, I think if we have to see from that angle, what was immediate, what was long term.
So Nirbhay, I'll have to interject here to Shonal's question here, and I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here. So if you've fallen sick, you take medicine and then you're okay because that's the need. All I'm saying is all this while we're talking about sustainable development. So is there something called sustainable CSR effort also? Because now everyone is talking of pandemic. If I would have come as an NGO to CGI and asked for grant just to buy, let's say, PPE kit without pandemic in picture, the company would have supported?
Absolutely not, Ajay. I think we have to see the CSR from a long-term perspective. It cannot be a one-time activity. It has to be seen from a long-term.
So when I talk about long-term perspective, I'm saying, do we have the horizon? When we talk about CSR activities, do we have the horizon to look at, like you said in your summing up statement, that you're looking at a little more futuristic CSR initiatives? So I'm saying now everybody is talking about pandemic. This has thrown upon us. It's forceful involvement rather than willingness to do it. All I'm saying is that now with COVID in picture, how do you see the entire CSR space shaping up? Is there a change which this pandemic will bring into the CSR initiatives?
Yeah, absolutely. I think really thanks for asking that. I think it really opened up as many of us, surely looking at CSR more from long term for sure. One thing for sure, I think the recent studies which have come up, the kind of the donation that we have to one of the National Relief Fund has really reduced over the past 3 years. That's one small segment that I can talk about it. The second, I think CSR also has to be seen from a long term. If you look at the recent amendments which are more progressive, of course, they're also regressive if we can look at it that way. But more, I would look at it more progressive because today, CJ, as we began our programs with STEM program to schools, but we also felt that just doing STEM program in school segment will not serve the purpose. But we also felt the kids who are at 10th grade and want to pursue science stream, we will support them at 11th and 12th. So today we are supporting as many about 400 girl students who are pursuing science stream. Then we are supporting the graduate students who are pursuing the technology and education in their graduation level. So that's how it has to be seen incremental. While I agree with you, it has a good number of them are actually seeing it as more project based, but certainly pandemic has really thrown the challenges in that. Let's look at more progressive. That's number one. Number two, I think today we are strengthening hospitals. Maybe it's an opportunity for us to pause ourselves and see, shouldn't we strengthen the primary health center right now, right here? Subsequently, it actually takes care of the rest of the other things. I'll give a classic example of the working with Anganwadi workers is a best example where they are the backbone of the entire system. If we are really taking care of them, today we keep seeing in media, they are working, they are crossing rivers, mountains to administer along with the nurses to the vaccination. If only we have the opportunity to take care of them, I think that will be a wonderful opportunity because that's one segment of the population really takes care of infants, expecting mothers, adolescent girls, and the aged women in the community, be it slums, urban segments, rural and tribal. That's how I would see it. It's really opened up opportunities for us to look at more long term. I would say it's more, it's just a beginning of what big things are going to come. And also, of course, it also to do with the leadership, the responsible leadership that has to come in. CSR should not be seen as a cost center. It should be seen more as an opportunity to work along the lines of the profits. How do we build the society alongside the profits.
I'm saying, why is CSR always highlighted during the troubled times? We have a clean Ganga fund. We do not have do not pollute Ganga fund. So my question is that, is CSR needed when there are trouble? When there is trouble or when there is stability, then we should build in CSR efforts more.
Absolutely not. I think that's unfortunately we are seeing the CSR is more like an FD and fixed deposit that's available for us to make use of it. That's certainly not right way. I think one of the classic examples I can also say that more from a CSR thing, it has to be seen more from an what dent is as a corporate can make it in the immediate communities for sure. And also what dent it can make at the national level also needs to be seen. I think a mix and match of both really makes sense. That's number one. Number two, also, I think it's also, it's voluntary end of the day. So therefore it has to be seen, how do we mix or how do we balance between what are my local needs, being a corporate at a place versus what the national interests are. I would certainly agree with you on that. I think it has to be seen more from a long-term perspective, should not be seen in one-time opportunity. Let's look at it more broad-based. So today we have as much as fund that's going towards the education programs. If you look at as much money that's going to the CSR money is going towards the education program. But equally important when we look at the environment, the climate change, which is equally important today. If you do not have a clean air to breathe, so what are we doing with funding in education? So of course, I think you really opened up those avenues to discuss. Yes, but certainly I think the theory of change has to come in, not just of a project-based approach. It has to be theory of change. Where are we seeing the change? And where do we want to go collectively? It's very important for us.
Shona.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you for this really delightful dialogue. This is what we expected, and this is what we are really looking forward to. And I think we will move on with Ms. Madhura ma'am. So, ma'am, one of the huge things that have been discussed amidst the pandemic was the employment, as everybody has been hearing that. And women who have been one of the worst hit communities, the worst hit vulnerable communities. And could you kindly tell us what are some of the initiatives that you had launched and how it has led to recovery for the same?
Thank you so much, Shonal. And it's lovely to be here on this panel with Nirbhay and Ajay. I am Madhura DasGupta Sinha. I am the founder and CEO of Aspire for Her, a young organization which is trying to change the diversity equation of our country. So I have been a banker for the past 25 years. And I started thinking about launching something like Aspire for Her because I was getting very disturbed with the general employment statistics, Shonal, that you mentioned among women. In fact, the percentage of women in the workforce in India has been sharply declining for the past 15 years. In the Global Gender Gap Index, India is absolutely at the bottom of the list. It's fifth from the bottom in 2021, really, if you look at economic participation and empowerment of women. So, that left me very disturbed. I felt somebody has to do something about it. And I thought that someone should be me. So that's how Aspire for Her was born. We started operations on 8th of March, 2020, which is Women's Day, exactly about 18 months back. And immediately after that, the pandemic hit. So the first thing that we did, Shonal, is we actually worked on a research report and we spoke to about 1,000 women, trying to understand as to what sort of impact did the pandemic have on women at work, because that's what we all are about, right? Women and careers, women at work. And we realized that as a demographic, the worst impacted in the entire pandemic was the working Indian woman. But we hadn't seen phase 2. We hadn't seen wave 2 of COVID. And as that hit us, we realized that the homemakers and the women who were being left behind by the men who lost their lives due to the pandemic were in fact even worse off. And they were in a very helpless situation because the primary breadwinner was gone. There was no closure to that entire process because you know how it all worked out during the pandemic. And they were also financially extremely unsure of themselves because most of them had absolutely no financial literacy. and no idea of what sort of implications their overall family finances held for them. I mean, how long would they able to manage the family? How would they manage to even get going without the primary breadwinner being there? Did they have loans? Did they have credit card dues? So it was a very, very traumatic situation. And we decided to launch a community to support women who are in this position, who have lost the primary breadwinners in their lives, and we called it the Not Alone community. So our message to this community was that you are not alone. We are with you. And we saw a lot of women sign up for this community, repose their faith in us. And that meant a lot to us because Shonal, remember that these were women who felt that they have been betrayed by the country, by society, by the medical system, by their spouses and their parents who have left them, and also by God, So that's really where they were. And we're very happy to tell you that for the last few months, this community has been growing. We have been able to support a lot of women get jobs. And this is not only about jobs, right? This is about managing their entire journey from the 7 stages of grief to ensuring that their insurances are taken care of, their PF and gratuity, all that is taken care of. The investment issues are taken care of, and their inheritance problems are demystified. And that's when we tell them that, look, now you're ready to pick up the pieces of your life, and let's look at economic independence for you. Let's look at what Aspire for Her truly stands for. And that's when we lead them into that path. And it's been a very gratifying journey for us. So my co-founder Rima and I are very, very honored that we have been really been a part of many journeys, and we have been a part of many journeys which have literally turned the corner of the lives for these women.
So Madhura, fantastic initiative, I must say. But on on I think Nirbhay's behalf and my behalf, my first question is, who's going to aspire for him?
This is a question that we have started getting, and we are delighted that we have started getting this question, Ajay. We will have Aspire for Him as soon as the diversity equation of our country changes. The minute we have 50-50 and we see 51% women in the workforce, Ajay, I will come to you and I will personally set up Aspire for Him with you.
On the lighter side, this is on the lighter side, but the important thing I need to know from you is, when we think about NGOs per se, these are little generic nature NGOs in the sense that you're doing water conservation, you're doing empowerment for women, which are generic topics. So when you think of something like Aspire for Her, which is very intrinsic, which is very niche, how do you come up with that kind of an idea? Is there a background story? Because now we can relate to it because the pandemic has happened, and obviously cases like that. But yes, you did it before that.
Correct.
So
yes.
Was that forecasting coming in somewhere?
No, I wouldn't dare to say that I dreamt that the pandemic will hit us one day. But there was a little bit of a backstory to this. I was seeing all of these data points, and I was seeing that women in my organization, and I've spent about 25 years in banking, so I was seeing women after reaching a certain point in the organization were dropping off the radar, were moving out of the workforce, and I was trying to figure out what's happening. And 2 things happened very close to each other. 2 life stories happened very close to each other. One was a friend of mine who has been a class topper all her life. She used to work and she left her job after her marriage, brought up her daughter, and her father fell ill. So she's my age, and her father fell ill, and she wanted to contribute to the medical expenses of her father, and she did not want to ask her husband. It's not that they're not on great terms; they are on great terms, but she just did not want to ask him for money, and she felt terrible. She felt a sense of vacuum in her heart. She said that my parents have done everything for me, and here I am at this stage in life. I have nothing to show. to contribute back to them, to tell them that, yes, Dad, I can take care of your expenses. And that happened. And I felt a little sad because there's no way in which anybody could really help her. She felt this deep sense of vacuum. The other person, that I came across maybe after a couple of days, and very coincidentally, was a young girl, okay, who was a friend of my daughter's. And she was going into this arranged marriage, and she was working in this fantastic company. And the family that she was getting married into said, women in our family don't work. And she waltzes into that fantastic organization and hands in a resignation letter saying, hey, you know what, I'm not going to come into work from tomorrow because I'm getting married. And I'm like, these two stories are two parallel lines in my life. And I'm like saying, doesn't she know that she is going to become my friend after 20 years, after 15 years? How do I show that mirror? How do I tell her that this is going to happen to you and you should not do this? Never, ever give up on your career. It's very important to be financially independent and you have to be persistent. Yes, there'll be problems. Yes, there'll be challenges, but don't give up. So these were the two stories that sort of played out before the pandemic. And after the pandemic, of course, the harsh reality has come forward. So I don't really need to tell these stories too often.
So Madhura, when Madhura from Aspire for Her goes to somebody like Nirbhay or other corporates with deep pockets, what is the color of your pitch? Is it practical, very tactical, or emotional?
I would say it depends on what the corporate really wants to do. We're very happy that the Not Alone campaign itself, and since Shonal's heart is very close to that, so I'll talk about that. We have a fantastic corporate partner who came in and said, you know what, we have our own community of workers who have lost their lives, their families are struggling, they have enough financial sustenance, but they do not actually know what to do with the money. They do not know what to do after this and how to get over this grief and how to move on in life. Can you help them? So we are actually working with them and it's the German MNC. I thought that their vision and the way in which they addressed the problem was so amazing, full of admiration for them. So like Nirbhay, I know Nirbhay's organization does some fabulous stuff as well. So we go to the organizations and we try and see where do we have intersecting interests, and then we talk to them about what we can do together. It's normally never a pitch. It's normally they come to us and tell us, how can you help us? And we are grateful to be part of their journeys.
Because Shonal's initiative, Demystifying, is fantastic, and all the people who are listening to this discussion, some of them probably are looking at starting something which you have done, Madhura. So that's the reason from Shonal's behalf, I have this question. Shonal, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Now I'll move on to Mr. Nirbhay, sir, who has been feeling a bit left out. So thank you, ma'am, for enlightening us. And Nirbhay, sir, your company has been talking about an initiative that has recently been in the news, and it's very well known, Tech for Good. And it has been making a lot of positive difference in life of the communities. Could you take us through like one of the inspiring stories that could help the participants over here? They would be really enlightened to hear you.
Well, thank you, Shonal, for asking that. I think Tech for Good is very, very close to our heart. We are an IT company based in Canada, and we have a good presence in India with 16,000 plus members in 5 cities. Being an IT company, the priorities are around how do we have digital inclusion by doing initiatives in the communities. That's a first priority that we come in. And also CSR also gives an opportunity for us to being a good corporate citizen where we live and work. That's how these two align. So when it comes to Tech for Good, in fact, the story is just about maybe 2-3 years old story that I can talk about it. When we're looking at the Indian population and more on the moving from a world that is more manual to technology-based or maybe knowledge-based economies, we needed population to be quickly get onto technology. I think demonetization was one such segment that we found. That is, we have population, but population also needs to be built awareness around how do they make use of the digital technology. So that's where we worked. Not only that, also the government of India also has an ambitious target of making every member of the family being digitally literate. That's where we signed up with National Digital Literacy Mission and started a small journey of tech for good. And today I'm really proud to say that we were running the physical training centers for free for some of the community members. Thanks to the pandemic, that we completely moved away the physical centers to something called training community members on DigiSaksha portal. Today, I'm really proud to share that we work very closely with NASCOM Foundation, and we also have tied up with Vodafone Idea, launching this platform called DigiSaksha, where the content is available in multiple languages. It's more of a self-learning platform for anyone who wants to learn basics of technology. That's where the journey has really shaped up for us. Then we felt, I think, this not only doing what we have been doing, spreading the word on the digital literacy, we also felt it's time that we also need to recognize people doing good work around how are they making best use of technology in solving some of the India's the social challenges. That's where we support the couple of digital tech for good platforms in India. And also I'm really proud to share that CGI's first such company sponsoring the India's Tech for Good report about 3 or 4 months back, that we captured about 500 arts or stories where enterprises are doing really good work. This is not only about private enterprises, but NGOs and other social smaller entrepreneurs who are doing really good work, so that they get an opportunity to scale up their solutions, number one. Number two, also, the corporates who wants to scale up or support such initiative can also look back and support. That's where the journey has been. And also, we also have begun the dialogues with various other corporates, NGOs. How do we leverage such platforms to build scalable projects, initiatives as number one. Number two, also build sustainable platforms where we can talk to each other and understand. Otherwise, we in our silos are creating islands of excellence in the sense that we create, recreate, and we are really happy about what we have been doing. But we also need to talk to each other and see how do we scale up such initiatives. So therefore, Tech for Good is very, very close. And today I'm also happy to share that our members also equally very, very passionate about taking this program to the communities where they are living. So that's how the journey has really begun at small, but the journey is not going to stop. Tech for Good, maybe it becomes a AI for good as in the long run, I guess. That's a journey that I see it. A lot needs to be done. A lot needs to be done. We are taking those small baby steps to scale up opportunities. Yes, we are looking towards as many opportunities to scale such initiatives across the country.
Yeah, lovely, lovely. In fact, 2 questions there, Nirbhay. The first one, of course, is my favorite question. Can you guys hear? I think
I can hear you.
Yeah. So I'm saying the first question again. Are you doing all this because there is something called a responsibility attached, or do you guys really want to do it? The intent is to do it.
Ajay, it's about the intent. It's not about the responsibility, because while I know that if I put it that way, you'll ask me what is corporate social responsibility. I know that's where you're going to put me into. But certainly it's a responsibility for sure from a compliance point of view. But it's an intention that we want to have that very clear at the leadership level.
No, when you say intention, it is the intention of Nirbhay, or it is the intention of the company he represents?
It's an intention of the company itself. When I look back and see my company itself, we already announced saying that where we want to go. I'll give an example of maybe a little deviating from where we are right now from a digital literacy. We made an announcement saying that by 2030, if not earlier, that we'll be net neutral across all our regions. So therefore, it's an intention that we already announced. Similarly, even for the 3 broad areas that we work around, the people where we do as many programs around digital inclusion, is an intention that as much as we do it, as long as you've got society that has peace, as a business, we will not grow. Right now, we are all looking at only numbers, the balance sheet, but we also need to look at the planet and the people or the community, the outside. So the other 2 segments also need to look at it. So therefore, unless we look at the other side of it, and then you make it your intention very clear, we are not going to grow together. Number one. Number 2, also, I think it's also very important for us to realize that we are all in this together. We cannot have the gap between have and have nots growing it. And we need to have that balance growth that has to be in place to grow together.
We hear this statement pretty often now, which is called skill development. So, I'm saying, is there a gap between what CSR initiatives are versus what skill development is? Because I see a lot of categorization happening. For example, you being a technology giant, you are doing CSR initiative in the field of technology only, or largely technology. So why this categorization? I'm saying if the CSR space is a need base or a sustainable development base, And if skill development and education and certain, I would say, technology-driven, empowering people or inclusion of people in technology, is it really CSR, or are we trying to train people to absorb them later also?
Ajay, I think the skill development has to be seen from two sides of it. One, there is certainly need for people to be trained, and there are employable opportunities out there. Right now, as all of us agree that the current university or the college school system does not solve that challenge. So therefore, there is need for skill. Number two, purely from a corporate social responsibility point of view, are corporates doing the skill development for serving their own purpose? I think certainly not. The reason being here is the way we are looking at the CSR is trying to address a challenge which society has. Whereas a corporate has a very different challenges at work. Yeah. So there are two segments that we're talking about. But I agree with you why there is a segment of skills. It looks like more pure vertical based training. I think it comes largely from the comfort of each corporate having their own expertise in that area. Today, if I'm asked to train about manufacturing industry, I may not be as comfortable as training around IT literacy, because that's something that me as a CSR lead here, or me as my management who comes from this segment understands this very well, can visualize where this growth is going to lead towards and how we can absorb if at all we require. So therefore, I think that's how we are looking at it. So we are all playing on our own strength, but certainly I agree with you. Yes, there is a scope to go beyond the comfort level. There are only small steps that we are taking. It's only just 10 years. But I certainly see as we proceed, I think the ambit is going to certainly open up for sure. As Madhura was talking about the technology, the leadership, I would like to give one anecdote there. When we look at the women leadership in corporates, it's less than 1 or 2%. So therefore, though we are an IT company, we have nothing to do with the technology, with the women, in the sense we are inclusive. But we do exclusive programs around how do we drive program that can bring as many girls into mainstream of education, and we support them for livelihood. Also, they get into mainstream of the work life. That's how we treat. So though it's not connected, largely most of these pieces fall together when we look at more from broad-based point of view.
No, fantastic. In fact, we were really applauding the kind of work you guys are doing. And that's where the point is that if a corporate is doing one segment work with so much efficiencies, then they should definitely open up a bit and try and get it a little more generic. Shonal.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you so much for your words. Madhura ma'am, your initiative, I think it is entrepreneurial, and it is really close to my heart as well. I wish to be associated with it, but I got really busy and I couldn't exactly register for it. But it is an amazing initiative, the intent behind it. And you mentioned that you wish to handhold women for the journey, and they have to confront so many challenges. And could you narrate one such incident of some inspiring story that entrepreneur has achieved, or anything else that you would like to share?
Shonal, yeah, I think entrepreneur is something which is very close to our heart. It's our newest community. And this is for all women who want to be entrepreneurs as well as who are existing entrepreneurs. And we are actually doing this in partnership with Navya Naveli Nanda. And Shonal, you are a fantastic part of our community. So don't worry about not being part of entrepreneur in particular, as long as you're part of Aspire for Her. We love you, we support you in everything that you do. And today's conversation, as you know, is just a part of that, right? We love to do that to our members, to our community. So, probably I will not talk about entrepreneur, but I'll talk about a story which unfolded just a few days back and is very fresh in my mind. And this is a young girl who was just getting into college, and she lost her mother, unfortunately, to COVID. But this is not about that. This is about the mentors we have. So in our entire mindset change model, one big part is being played by the mentors and role models. As you know, they're all women leaders. They are CEOs, CXOs. They are women leaders who have built their own organizations, etc. And they love to give back. They love to talk to members on our platform. They spend time with them with only one agenda, ensuring that they're set up for professional success. So a few days back, we got this message from this girl, and I'll call her Tanya, and she said that she had lost her mother and she was just about to sign up for college, because this is the time when the college registration admission process happens. And she was not getting any support from her father. Her father was in fact also threatening to turn her out of the house. Somebody, one of our mentors, just posted this, okay, on the mentors group that we have. And we call that group Trillion, because this is the $1 trillion opportunity that India misses out on because it doesn't have enough women working. And this is the McKinsey report talking about the $1 trillion opportunity, not me. Within minutes, the groups, the members of Trillion, which is all our mentors, they just got to action. They swung into action. One person ensured that her entire education will be taken care of. One person stood up and said, you know what, I'm willing to make payments to her every month till such time that she reaches financial independence. One person said, I will ensure that she gets internships so that she has some modes of sustenance. One person ensured that, anything that she needs on her academic front, her educational resources, etc., I will ensure that all of these things happen within minutes in front of my eyes, okay? And, I have actually posted about this on LinkedIn because the incident moved me so much. The power of people coming together, women coming together to support other women, and making this into a movement of sorts. I think this is just a small incident which kind of brought it out. And, all of us felt very fulfilled to be able to be part of young Tanya's journey. So yeah, Shona, that was a little story that sort of moved me just a few days back. So I thought I'd share that part of that.
So from Shonal's platform, all the people who are listening to this conversation, I'm sure aspire for her, and initiatives like these are, like you said, Madhura, it's very fulfilling, it's very satisfying. But tell me, for all the people and for a larger audience, how difficult it is to run something like Aspire for Her?
Well, I don't feel like I'm working when I'm running Aspire for Her. So I wouldn't say that, from an emotional quotient, it is difficult at all. I love it. I find it professionally far more fulfilling, personally far more satisfying than what I was doing for the last 25 years. I have no qualms in admitting that in a public platform like this. But yes, when you want to run an organization, you need to ensure that this is also financially sustainable. So when we actually go to organizations and we look for like-minded partners who wish to change diversity equation of the country, one of the challenges that we find is that there are not enough of them. So, most of the organizations in India do not think diversity is a top priority.
No, more than that, how responsive are people to an initiative like this?
So 95% of the organizations in our country are yet to understand, appreciate the concept of diversity and what it can actually do for them. We work with the other 5%.
So Nirbhay, there's a question to you also then. If Madhura comes to you, or if not Madhura, anyone who has got a CSR initiative in place comes to you, how do you rate? What exactly goes into your mind that, okay, we wish to support it, it's not fitting into our scheme of things. So how do you really judge?
Actually, I must say here, Ajay, that Nirbhay's organization, and I'm aware of it much before I got to know him, I got to know of CGI and the good work that they are doing. They actually run a fantastic program at IIT Bombay to foster women entrepreneurs. And, to answer your other question, this is actually quite far away from their core competence, because women entrepreneurship, not really tech, but all kinds of entrepreneurship.
No, I'm giving Aspire for her as an example. I'm saying if somebody is saying, okay, I want to do something in technology inclusion and a lot more technical words into it in their proposal, how would you rate that proposal is what I'm saying?
I think there are two things, Ajay, when you look at, especially CSR, when you look at for the proposals, I think, as the way Madhura said, I think we also get 95% of the proposals which are project-based. They are one-time kind of activity, which we really don't even bother to look at it. But there are always experts to the proposals which look very, very interesting. They actually come from the data-centered approaches, where they look at the dynamics, the real dynamics at what's happening in the society, and what segment they are going to address it, and where this is going to go. So from that angle, I think we look at more from long-term impact point of view. That's number one for sure. The second that we keep it in mind is it aligned to what we believe largely? Also is equally important, because unless we have an alignment to what we believe in, it's very difficult to get a convincing answer for ourselves. The third, the alignment is very, very important, because for us, not just about me being as a CSR lead, but also it's important for the management itself to get convinced it's worth putting money there. It's not just about writing a check, but being part of their journey. It's very, very important. The way Madhura was talking about IIT Bombay, we do have leaders going there and speaking in those forums is equally important for us. It's also an opportunity for our own women leaders to get exposed, not just to get trained, but also speak about themselves in those such forums. So therefore, it's all about alignment. But certainly we wait and watch. We do not, from a rating point of view, we don't even say yes or no in the beginning. We wait and watch. Where are they coming from? Which angle? Is just a one-time support, or is there any progress approach to it? Number one. Number two, also it's very important to look at, are they looking at pilots? Are they looking at scaling up opportunities? Are they looking at a random, any off-the-shelf kind of a program? So therefore, these go into when we evaluate program. The third, very, very important, Madhura would agree with me, that who are the founding members of such entity that we look into it? Are they someone from the same field and have gone through a personal journey? Have they really tested and tried something in their as a professionals? Do they have some success story that are there very important? Of course, we do today support social incubation without the early stage startup that we support with another partner, where these the young not-for-profits have no experience at all, but we go with the conviction of their founders' belief system.
So, but for then this opens up another debate. For example, if we do not have a Madhura with us, with a lot of experience and credibility in the market, and the kind of work now Shonal is starting to do. So like you said, we also look at founder members. If somebody who's inexperienced, but got a lot of intent, goodwill, and temperament to do it, then you think, it's difficult for them to get through?
It's certainly difficult, but Ajay, so far for us, when we really look at some of these proposals, I'm using proposals for a reason, because it's much easier to understand. I think half of effort is taken care the way they write those 2 pages, 3 pages. So that's very, very important. The minute you read first few pages, actually you realize where are they coming from, number one. Number two, it's equally important when you look at, say example, if I'm listening to Shonal, the way she comes across, you actually know that she has a conviction in her mind, and also where she wants to take from here on. It's equally important for them. I think it's about what they write in, what they speak about it. It really matters for us. It's not so much about experience. Today, I'm really proud to share that we work with early stage startups, which are really fresh, maybe 6 months old. Also, the highest that they have is about 3 years old experience. But when we train them, they make up 15x grant when they really with us for those 11, 12 months with us. So we give them platform opportunities about networking. We also give them the grant. We also give them tech acumen, support from our own leadership team, supporting them as a mentors. That's how it is. So it's about looking at where are they coming from. It's a case-to-case basis. It's not it's really wrong on my part to say it's very, very data-driven approach, but it's certainly looking at those qualitative and quantitative framework, looking at and then evaluating what really works and whether really good fly or not. Yes, I do. From a CSR point of view, we do burn our fingers and hands. We do have experience where things have really not gone really well.
Yeah, sure. Shonal?
Yes, sir. So thank you so much, sir, for bringing this question. I think everybody here, some of them must be starting up or maybe planning to, or maybe young entrepreneurs. And I think they would be really inspired to hear you say these things. I think it would be like a ray of light, a ray of hope that they could, look forward to. And I really thank you for saying such kind words. And I think now moving on to the next section of the this session, one question that needs a lot of reflection, and I believe that at Demystified, we want to initiate such conversations. And I want to ask you, each of you, about your opinion that you are leaders and experts about, and hence about these matters, and hence your views really are crucial. And what are the key issues that you feel that the corporates and non-profits need to focus on, and how philanthropists, foundations, and corporates need to collaborate in order to scale up impact and help the vulnerable communities? And what are some of the key areas that one needs to focus on? And before you answer them, I believe that let's ask our participants. So we will put up a poll, and we request all participants to kindly vote, and please let us know about your opinion. So I think, yes, they're still voting. We'll just wait for a couple of while, and then we'll have the winner. Okay, it's still coming.
So while your poll is still happening, I have a question for Madhura. Now we see the emergence of startup. It's like a startup revolution in our country. Okay, and we are seen as the next big startup universe in the world. Do you think, these startup understand the CSR language? They themselves right now striving on angel funding. So do they really understand the world of CSR? Is this a good climate for corporate?
Great question, but I will, dip into a little bit of my experience with millennials because, I have had a great experience for the last 18 months working with a lot of them, working very closely with a lot of them. What I notice in this generation is that they really care about the purpose. They really care about their true north. And while, of course, in the whole startup, unicorn, that entire ecosystem, there are many who are very blindly following wealth creation, market capitalization, and looking at how quickly can I get unicorn status, etc. But a lot of them, from fantastic backgrounds, are actually looking at the social world. They're looking at social sector startups, we should have a cup of coffee, and I would love to introduce you to some of them. And I love the way in which the conviction of their belief is actually building their organizations. They could have earned billions and billions of dollars in any part of the world, but they're choosing to solve a problem in an underserved community. So I'm seeing many of them, so very hopeful and optimistic about them. I mean, even if you look at Navya, who actually partners with us on the entrepreneurial piece. For someone like her, she probably has 1,000 options of where she can spend her time and where she can invest her energies. She's choosing to speak up for women's entrepreneurship. She's choosing to speak up for women's empowerment. She's choosing to lend her voice to some very credible voices like United Nations. So I would say that I'm seeing that shift in this current generation, and it's a great story of hope and optimism there.
Okay. Shonal?
Yes, sir. So the poll results are here, and thank you for keeping the engagement. I think most of the participants here believe that poverty reduction and healthcare access for all is the need of the hour and will be in the post-COVID recovery. Thank you everyone for participating. And I think we can go on with the discussion and about what are the key issues that needs to be concentrated on. I think most of which has been already spoken about, but I think if you could add a little bit, I think this is the end of a session, so we could just add a little bit, anything, a message that you would also, let the people know.
So I think interesting is that people like Madhura have really shown the world that you have to be very clear what exactly you want to do for this society, because we've been all hearing about certain issues which are pretty generic in nature. While we say it's a social responsibility and the government should act as a custodian for that. But when people like Madhura comes in and they start something like Aspire for Her, it's a very niche market. Equally satisfying, but definitely difficult, because then you have to explain a lot more to people what exactly you want to do. And thankfully, she started this before the pandemic. So, so Madhura, we would definitely love to know from you that anybody who is listening here, that when you started Aspire for Her, similarly, when somebody is starting to do something in the social welfare or social responsibility field, what exactly they should keep in mind so that they exactly know the direction is very important. You really have to be very focused. I know that's not the easiest of the thing to do, but what's your take on that? What exactly you want to tell them?
So, in our book, I think what we realize is that it's a very lonely journey. This sort of a journey is a very lonely journey. And it always helps if you have a community. So we would request all of you to dip into the magic of the community, the power of your networks, and ensure that you are never alone in this journey. So, just like Aspire for Her, there are other organizations which are helping folks get together, build communities together. I'm sure that you will find your right niche in one of those communities. But don't do this alone. I think that's the only thing that I'd like to leave people with. And think about women and careers. If there is a woman in your life, in your immediate circle, who you feel should be earning and should be working, please encourage her, motivate her. It is not too late. Please encourage her to get back into the workforce, and always encourage young folks like Shonal who are trying to make a difference and who are trying to actually change traditional frameworks of thinking and of society. So thank you, Shonal, for doing this.
But how do we establish ourselves? How do we get founders like Madhura?
I am confident that out of the Aspire for Her community of about 65,000 that we have today, each one of them, can be a Madhura, because they are all, a part of our journey. They're all listening to our message. They're all imbibing the message. We see multiple examples of this every day. So I know Shonal will be like that as well. So I'm very confident in the future.
So Nirbhay, now the question to you. While like Madhura said, when she is doing an initiative like Inspire for Her, it's very satisfying. She finds it very fulfilling. On the other side of the table, when you sit and do a project in association with one body or the other, how do you derive satisfaction for yourself? What is your benchmarking?
Yeah, so when we look at the benchmarking, I think it's all about looking at where the needle has moved from where we were to where we are. Certainly, there are three things that I would keep in mind when I'm looking at the impact itself. One is I would not certainly look at the outreach. In the sense, a good number of actually believe that, I've reached out to as many people, that itself is an impact. I think absolutely not. What's important for us is, like, say, today, good number of corporates or NGOs work around education, but education does not mean that just give them infrastructure. It has to be redefined and defined about having quality education. So therefore, there are those qualifiers needs to be defined. So where we want to move from point A to point B. The number two also, while we are supporting some of these organizations, it's very, very important right in the beginning to understand what would be that point of sustainability. Are we going to feed for them forever, or are we going to make them independent of what we are here right now? So that's second point, most important. Otherwise, it happens such a way that we keep feeding them and they feed others. That's not the solution. That's only we are aggravating the problem further, or maybe pushing a problem even further. The third, very, very important to understand, do we have a story to tell? Or 3 years, 5 years, 7 years down the line? That's more important for me. So that's how I look at it, Ajay, when I look back and see in myself, that's where I'll see from an investment, from a year long or maybe few years later, where did we move from where we were?
But that is very interesting, because long time back I was talking to somebody who was representing the Central Road Research Institute, and I asked him, I said, there's traffic problem all over, and the people are making flyovers to deal with it. He said to me, flyover is not the solution. You're only transferring the traffic. You have to create more ways. That's exactly what you said. It should not be unidimensional. We shouldn't keep feeding each other, but we have to really be more clear on what exactly we want to do in terms of our social responsibilities. And equally nice message from Madhura. You have to be very passionate about what you want to do. You have to be very honest and sincere in your effort. At the same time, you need to see that your project is sustainable, because you can't run it otherwise. It has to be commercially viable. If not commercially, it has to be sustainable. So I think all of us who are listening here, and thanks to Shonal and the platform, listening from people like Nirbhay and Madhura, we've got both sides of the coin. We exactly know how to run Aspire for Her and how to really go to somebody like Nirbhay with a proposal which is right and accurate and got passion in it. Shonal.
Thank you, sir, for this wonderful conversation. I think we covered pretty much, and I think, sir, Ajay, sir, if you could take up questions from the Q&A and pick up some and ask the panelists, and if you could also answer.
Yeah, so I think Madhura, that's this question for you, and fairly valid question, very, very important question. They're saying, while women who are educated can go to Aspire for Her because they know how to go there. Okay, they've got a communication channel or a contact channel in, but somebody who is not educated enough, how do we help them, and how can they stand on their feet?
So at Aspire for Her, we actually support a lot of NGOs as well. Some of them, just a few months back, we worked with a school where the girls were not getting access to education, and thanks to COVID, and they wanted to learn how to speak better English. We ensured that our volunteers went ahead and did that. We're currently working with another organization called My Little Bit, and they're looking at getting absorbed in a particular company. One of our corporate partners is working with us to ensure that they go through the journey of mentorship and then finally look at partnering with them to actually place them. So we keep doing initiatives like this to ensure that we do spread the wing among people who are not fortunate enough to actually have access to channels, conventional channels like social media and or newspapers for that matter, etc. So we do try to do that. But yes, there's lots more that we can do. And we'd love to hear of new ideas. If Nirbhay has any ideas for us, happy to do that as well. We work with the underserved and underprivileged communities in very specific situations, in schools, colleges, and these sort of NGO partners. That's how.
And another connecting question with this, which is an interesting one. They're saying, how do women manage to stay at the top of the game when they are surrounded by powerful men all around?
How did you think I did when I'm surrounded by all these powerful men all around?
You seeing the example right now, Madhura and Shonal top of the game.
So yeah, I don't think we need to really go deep into that. But yeah, on a lighter note, yes, it is. I mean, this is the problem we are trying to solve, right? We don't want that woman to be the only person to be in the boardroom. We don't want that woman to be the only person to raise voice in the meeting, and especially in tech communities, we don't want them to be underrepresented because half of the world's population is women. And so all the things that we do to change mindsets actually ensure that a woman will feel confident as she's making her way up the corporate ladder. All I would request all women to do is never feel that, you should be less confident or you should be anything less than anyone else in the room. It is not about gender, but about really what you bring to the table. Don't ever fall prey to the imposter syndrome. I think that's what I'll leave you all with.
So Nirbhay, the question to you is that, the technology is ever changing. It's very dynamic. Then how do you ensure technology inclusion under these circumstances?
Sorry, Ajay, can you repeat the last portion?
I'm saying you talk about technology inclusion a lot in your conversation. Where the technology is ever changing, it's fairly dynamic. Okay, it gets redundant pretty fast. So how do you ensure technology inclusion? What stage you feel that, okay, that's how it's going to work?
I think it's very important. Technology gives that edge for anyone. That's where the differentiator comes from with technology and without technology. The second thing, what Madhura was also talking about is, I think Madhura is part of the problem, and also part of the solution. Therefore, she's able to stand up and able to speak it. But I did see it in our own aspects. When you look at the digital inclusion itself, I'll talk about. Let's go to any private player and see the training institute. I'm talking about the paid institute. You will see more. It's more towards more boys and men attending such things. But when we look at our own community-driven programs, I see more women coming in without having any hesitation of age. Mothers, once the children at school, they come to these centers and get trained. Somewhere there's a belief system that technology is going to create that age. There's a belief system already among the communities that it is going to help for them. Second, also given that the kind of the economy that we are right now in living in, I think it's part and parcel of daily life. These are the two things are going to drive. The third thing, which is more important right now, maybe we are few corporates for doing this. I think we need as many people to be part of this, addressing this more aggressively than what we have been doing. And then you also have a good number of the responsible leaders who are also part of the bandwagon and trying to do as many. Today, when you look at in India, the leadership level, we have got as many women actually leading such for forefront. So therefore, I see it more opportunities coming in there. So therefore, it is certainly an additional effort. You have to be part of. It's certainly an effort that is thought through. It doesn't come naturally. You need to make an effort to make it happen.
See, and this is purely from what I do, be into communication and strategy and advertising and so on and so on. Where the benchmarking of education or being called educated or literate is that I can sign my name. How do you ensure that somebody is really adapting to a technology? When we do not have a basic benchmarking for literacy, how do we ensure technology inclusion?
Yeah, so interesting. I think Ajay, you did raise, and so when we were actually starting about the program on digital literacy, we were wondering why should we do it when everyone uses a mobile phone, everyone is tech savvy, everyone. So there's a belief system already. But when I benchmark it, today we have women who are tailors who are doing traditional way of doing it. Today they are really making use of YouTube, for an example I'm giving, to enhance their product. That I see it. Today I also see a good number of women part of our own program that they have created groups and they have built network. I realize networking is so important in these days. The third thing I also realized that a good number of women also have enrolled themselves in these the e-commerce platforms to sell their product. So what more we need from a basic, the technology itself says that, what, it helps me to where I see it's a business opportunity for them. That's where I see it more from where they are right now to where they are moving towards to.
So Madhura, is there a chain reaction to it? Are we really seeing the trickle down effect when you do Aspire for Her and you've got certain set of examples set in? But I'm saying, is there a chain reaction happening? The person who's empowered now is also helping others?
It is very much so. And we actually advocate that a lot at Aspire for Her, the whole concept of paying it forward. And we see that happening quite often. In our small microcosm, I would put it that. But this has to be at a far larger level, at a far more holistic, universal level, so that we spread this message across the globe And we actually see that happening in a much bigger sense. So lot of ground to be covered over there. Yeah, we see the early stages of that happening, at least in our community. We see that all the time at JPF.
Shonal, anything from your side?
Yes, so actually there was a question, like I think the question is really interesting and some of it we have already discussed, that Anjali says that COVID taught us that how there is the first wave that the rich escaped, and in the second wave it taught everyone equally that when it's dire times, we all need to collaborate and take up and help each other out. And she says that online classes, the issue of online classes raised issue about how students from vulnerable sections of society can have access to such resources, and well they struggle, and now not that every child has smartphones and high-speed networks, just as you said that not everybody is tech savvy, not everybody has the access to technology to view. So I think that is the question, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I think Nirbhay, that's a question for you. They're saying if the answer to offline classes was online classes, do we have enough resources, means to really do that?
I think it's my personal opinion, absolutely not. I think even in a physical classroom where we have the teacher-pupil ratio, which is 1:40 and above, where we are not able to teach in a physical atmosphere, where we have stories or there studies which prove that a grade 6th grade student cannot read a second grade class, the textbook. So these are hard realities. I think therefore it's very important for us, the education, therefore I guess the government of India really took that risk of reopening schools. In my personal opinion, I think the virtual education, especially from the vulnerable community, is not working, sir. Sure. The problem is twofold. One is teachers are not equipped and children do not have access. And certainly if the videos were equated with education, I think absolutely, I do not agree with it. Education is much beyond than having video-based lessons. I think it's much more social, it's much more interactive, it's much more one-to-one conversation. So therefore, I think children really suffered and continue to suffer. I think this we may not see immediate right now, but 2 years, 5 years down the line, I think we will have the set of children really lost these 18 months, will have tough time going forward.
I feel very good when my mobile or my laptop honks off. I feel very good. That point in time, I realized human is still superior to technology. So on a serious note, I'm saying the circumstances are such where you cannot conduct physical classes. So the online classes is the only means or the medium available to us. So how technology can help in these circumstances? I think Shonal also asked the same question, where the person is bothered about somebody who cannot afford. So wherein technology can pitch in here to help them?
Yeah, I think the couple of things that would have happened, I think one is for sure, I think we should have a repository of the content itself. We have got 5 million teachers, we have got schools, and we have been saying for last 2 or 3 decades that we have enough on ICT education, that's called information communication technology for school system, which is available. I think we should have made use of that in the existing infrastructure without not being invested further. That's one, I see it. It's more about building the learning content for sure is one. The second, I would have really feel really good to empower teachers more better. They should have been trained much better. That should have been a priority. Even in these circumstances, we should have trained teachers to be prepared for what's coming. The third, the economics of scale itself is very challenging. I think we should have a structured plan of how do we make these community-based accessible classrooms. We found a very easy way from a systems point of view. I think we said TV is a medium of teaching. I think that's where we really faltered. We felt TV was a solution. Certainly not. I think mobile was a solution. I think we looked at device-based rather than what actually worked for a child and worked for a teacher. I think it was a more of an stopgap arrangement that was seen. We should have really made, I think we still have time to really build world-class content, which is vernacular-based, maybe state-specific, certainly. The second, I think it's again time that we need to invest time and effort to teacher involvement more on training programs.
Yeah, but still the problem lies, because if you can create the content, how do you disseminate the content is still a problem. I think we need to find a solution there.
Absolutely. I think it's about it's a collective effort. I think there are no easy answers for sure. I'm not a believer that devices are going to solve the problem for sure. I think that's not the solution.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But at the same point in time, where we were really talking about to the question which Shonal's question, you know, I'm really surprised why we never use the Doordarshan and radio FM channels to conduct classes. And I'm really surprised. That goes to everywhere.
No, I think we do have such stories. But again, Ajay, the challenge there has been those have been very sporadic. There have been not systematic approaches. So that's where
exactly.
So they have been tried. It works. It doesn't work. You're doing the slots are very different. It doesn't work for the child. No one is at home. So I think we have not paid attention to those details. But certainly, I think it's time right now. One pandemic gave us an opportunity to look at some of those very, very closely.
So somebody who's now listening to Demystified initiatives and Shonal's platform, this is a great opportunity to do something for the society, because this situation is going to stay a little longer here. So let's see if the good brains here work out some plan. Shonal, anybody else for the question?
Yeah, I think that's about it. And thank you everyone for your time and patience. Everybody has stayed constantly and they have been listening to our leaders, to our moderator, to everyone here. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us today. It has been wonderful talking to you. And I think everybody here gained so much of insights and learnings, and they are surely very motivated. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, Madhura. Bye, Nirbhay. Bye, Shonal.
Nice speaking.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shonal.
Thank you, everyone.